गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवस्त्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वनुतिभिः सादसादनम् ॐ महागणपतये नमः। प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवत्यवतु ॐ महासरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्यदेवो भव अतिथिदेवो भव। ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ओम शांति शांति शांति।
ధన్యవాదాలు సత్యవతమ్మ. ఇప్పుడు ప్రభు గారు పూజనీయులైన ప్రభు గారిని మాట్లాడాల్సిందిగా క్లాస్ తీసుకోవాల్సిందిగా కోరుకుంటున్నాను.
Om. Friends, today we will be covering the two more darshanas. Yesterday we finished covering Sankhya Darshana and Yoga Darshana. Today we will cover the Nyaya Vaiseshika pair. So, Nyaya Darshana is the logic system created by Gautama, and it deals with the pramanas, that is the proofs. In our Vedic Sanatana Dharma, we have a requirement to have everything stated as per the proof. You cannot make any statement as you like and ask people to believe. If you do that, it will be dismissed. It has no validity. In other religions outside Sanatana Dharma, there is no such requirement. They make certain statements about certain personalities or about God or about lifestyle or anything, and that will be required to be followed blindly without questioning whether it is about the existence of a particular prophet personality or the details of that life of that prophet personality, whether he really existed in history or not, nobody knows. There is no proof, and there is no proof for any of the events or statements made by that personality, and there is no proof for any statement in the holy text also. But in India, the culture is different. There was freedom, and even today there is freedom to question and ask for proof. Now, a lot of things happen in this world without any proof. People carry on with life with many belief systems, blind belief systems, and taking for granted. But in Indian culture, in Sanatana Dharma, that is not acceptable. So also in science. So also in modern lifestyle of Western culture or scientific spirit, without proof, no statement will be acceptable, and blind belief is repugnant to the spirit of science. I've gone through the scientific career of my life for about 40 years. I studied in IIT Mumbai. I got MTech there. I also have a PhD from some other university. I also have a BTech in electronics and communication. I have one more doctorate in philosophy, Doctor of Divinity, conferred upon me a few years back. Now, with all this background, I also have to take a stand that we cannot say or do anything without proof. So, Nyaya Shastra, Nyaya Darshana, whose sutras or aphorisms are written by Gautama. We all know Gautama, we heard of the Gautama Rishi. We have a river called Gautami, which is Godavari, and we have a train called Gautami Express. But we never bothered to know who was Gautama, what did he do. We just know that there was one Gautama Rishi and Ahalya was his wife. That's the end of it. But what did he do? He did tapasya, fine, but what did he contribute? Nobody bothered. But the fact remains that Gautama gave out the system of logic. The Gautama Nyaya Sutras are available today. I can only give you a brief overview because I am not exactly an expert in Nyaya Shastra, but I did some deep study in Vaiseshika, which is its immediate twin. Nyaya Vaiseshika go together as twins because Nyaya is logic, and you know logic is the basis of mathematics. And using logic, Vaiseshika developed a system of analysis of physical world, the real world, and that therefore Vaiseshika is physics. And we have the subject of Vaiseshika covered in my book. The physics of Vaiseshika is available from Tirupati. In fact, Lalita ji lives in Tirupati. I hope she can get access to these books by going to the SV Vedic University in the Tirupati, not Tirumala, but Tirupati itself. You must be aware of the Vedic University, Lalita ji.
Yes,
So-
Prabhu sir. I'll go there and I will access those books.
Yeah,
I can
this
go there.
book is published by SV Vedic University, and you can procure because on the internet they are not giving easily.
Okay.
So I heard that reprinted. It's a big success. This book is a big success, and they have published many books, but my book is the only book which is having totally purely science. So the physics of Vaiseshika, I will be covering that today and maybe. Okay, so it's a very low cost book, and our other students also, maybe our participants may be interested to procure one. Please help them to get it. So I have spent a long time in studying Vaiseshika. It also happened that when I was young, I was going through the Vaiseshika Sutras. Then I suddenly realized that I have heard these things in my school level science textbooks, like physics books. Some of the sutras sounded very similar to some of the Vaiseshika Sutras sounded very similar to the familiar laws of physics, familiar to everyone, like Newton's laws, first law, second law, third law, gravitation, force, acceleration. I was surprised, how come there is a similarity? ఎక్కడో చూసినట్టుగా ఉంది అనుకుంటుంది సార్ అట్లా. When I read this in Sanskrit, I was wondering how come this is here, whereas I have studied in school physics textbooks. as Newton's third law, Newton's second law, Newton's first law. Then I realized it is not that this book, Vaiseshika, has copied from Newton, because Newton is very recent. And Kanada, the author of Vaiseshika Sutras, is very ancient, around 3000 years back. So obviously, the knowledge of physics was there in Sanskrit text, and this is the only book. The Vaiseshika Sutras is the only textbook available in Sanskrit dealing with the laws of physics. Then I took a lot of interest. I have spent almost 15-20 years trying to interpret in English and bring the connection, bridge between the Vaiseshika Sutras and physics. And after 15-20 years, this book could be produced. And once I gave the manuscript to the Vedic University in Tirupati, they took some 5 years to publish it because they did a lot of editing. And they did a lot of editing work because some errors were there in Sanskrit text and all that. So when Mr. Radhesham is there, he's the registrar. Lalitaji, you must be knowing him. Radhesham is the registrar of Vedic University in Tirupati. So he was a very crucial person for bringing out this book. And his uncle Ravindra Sharma is a doctor in Bangladesh. He is my student of yoga. That is how I came to know him. Now, let me get into the subject. As I said, the Gautama Nyaya Sutras, Nyaya Darshana, is a compendium of proof methodologies. What are the kinds of proof? What are the kinds of standardization or proof knowledge, proof science, pramana shastra? So, like Pratyaksha is a pramana and Anumana is a pramana. Of course, every pramana has got its validity as well as its limitation. We cannot say Pratyaksha is not true because we are living in the real world with the help of Pratyaksha pramana only. Through our eyes, through our ears and nose, we are able to see and hear and take steps, actions in this world. So Pratyaksha pramana is fundamental. It is required, without which we cannot live. But at the same time, Pratyaksha pramana has got certain limitations. The limitations which are imposed by our five indriya senses, eyes, ears, nose. Our eyes cannot see very small objects, microscopic objects. And our ears cannot hear very mild sounds. And so on. Therefore, and our eyes cannot see very big objects also, very far objects also. Like we cannot see what exactly is the shape of sun or what exactly is the shape of moon. All that we can see is a circle. It is. So if we believe that moon is only one poppered size disk, or we believe that sun is a light-giving poppered size disk, then we are mistaken. That is a childish explanation. Like when Rama was a child, he was asking for moon. So what they could do, they just brought one piece of mirror and kept in his hand and showed towards the moon and said, see, moon is here in your hand. So that is the kind of methodologies people adopt. Poets made a lot of poetry about moon, about sun and whatnot. So the people are carrying on with life like that. Like an ordinary person, say our servant maid, for example, is not bothered whether moon is a planet or a satellite, or whether it is, what is its area, whether there is life on it, whether there are craters in it. People are not bothered. They don't need. All that they see is moon, a beautiful popper-sized disk, and very beautiful, and that's the end of it. So people carry on with life with Pratyaksha Pramana is adequate for them. But the thinkers right from Aristotle, Socrates in the Western world, and in India, the rishis of the Vedas, they realize that whatever appears is not true. There is something more than what appears. So they came out with the subject of evidence, the science of evidence. Somebody just put a comment that Evidence Act exists. Evidence Act exists in the courts of law. I'm talking of evidence of valid knowledge of all subjects. Whether a statement made, like I saw one statement yesterday on the big board. I was wondering, it is a big lie. So people are making statements in big boards and in newspapers, which are lies. For example, the Bible says God created the universe in 7 days, and by some calculations, it comes out to be 4004 BC, 23rd October. So they say that God made the universe in 7 days, starting from 23rd October 4004 BC. And in order that a cultured group of humans evolve, it will take some time. So roughly around 1500 BC, the Aryans came into existence and they invaded India on horses. They were singing songs, and those songs are called Vedas. This is the kind of description they gave. And in Quran also, there are almost all statements which are either copied from Bible or from somewhere else, and making such statements, which people will simply believe. They don't care. They can't understand. The converts to Christianity, for example, illiterates, very poor people who convert because they get money. They cannot understand anything. So they will simply accept Bible. But in Europe itself, in as early as 14th century, 15th century, there was a lot of revolt against the church because of this kind of unscientific and unbelievable and statements which are having no evidence. So today, friends, you believe it or not, in the entire Western world, 60% or 65% of the people have declared that they have no religion because they got disgusted with the false claims, fake nonsensical statements being made in Bible or in other subjects. In fact, Bible is the source for Quran and some other texts also. And Bible makes many such statements. And our Karunakar Sukuna is there, Shiva Shakti channel. He is exposing the falsity of many statements in Bible which are totally meaningless or foolish or incomprehensible or inconsistent. And there is no proof whatsoever. Coming back to Indian culture, the Hinduism, it's not like that. We are talking of a very ancient period of the Vedas of 40,000 years minimum, the Saraswati River, and then the Darshanas and the Shastras. So one of the 6 Darshanas, which are the Astika Darshanas, is Nyaya Darshana, which is nothing but Nyaya itself. The word Nyaya itself means logic and proof. Nyayam Chayandi. Nyayam Chayandi means it should be provable, valid decision. It is also known as Anvikshaki. Anvikshaki means very microscopic analysis, looking at things in a very, very minute and microscopic manner. So this scientific culture of the world was not there in Europe because of Bible and other things. And obviously it was not there in Middle East originally because they blindly believed what they wrote in their scriptures based on Bible. But the scientific spirit was there in India, in Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, even till today, from the beginning of the Vedic period, if at all there is such a thing called Vedic period. So the rishis and the shastris, the logicians, the grammarians, all the various scholars, they were concerned about proof. Mataka pranamu satyam, there is a statement in Sumati Satkam. The life of a word is its truth. And the truth can be only proven. It cannot be believed blindly. So proof, pratyaksha pramanam, then whatever things cannot be reached through pratyaksha will be through anumana pramanam. And that is deduction, inference. So entire science, entire technology is based on inference only. Proof based inference based on logical deduction. If A is true and B is true, then A and B both are true, then C is true. Like this, there is a inference process, and that inference process is called deduction and intelligent activity. And today we have artificial intelligence where the same inference process is performed by software and embedded into hardware also. And a robot is an intelligent agent. In fact, we have a whole lot of subject which I teach also sometimes, intelligent agents and robots and so on. So the logic has the fundamental methodology of statement of making a statement and saying it is true or false, to prove. If a logical statement is proven to be true, then the second statement can be deduced from first statement and third statement from fourth and so on. And finally, if you reach a inference which is just the opposite of the first one, then your entire theory is bogus. This is how R. Shankaracharya proved the fallacy, the bogus nature of the theories of the opponent philosophers belonging to Buddhist, Jain, Charvaka, Loka. All these people, whatever statements they made, R. Shankaracharya was able to perform inference. He derived B from A and C from B and D from B, and finally one Z will come, which is the exact opposite of A. So that means your entire statement of A is a hoax. So today in the Evidence Act also, in the courts also, they use this. That's why it's called Nyayasthanam. The court is called Nyayasthanam because Nyaya, the word Nyaya there means logic, proof, evidence, and deduction, inference, and so on. So in the Nyaya Darshana, there are a large number of pramanas. Pramana means standard or proof or provable knowledge, methodology of proof, epistemology of proof. So Pratyaksha Pramana, Anumana Pramana. Then if there are any topics other than this, I mean like those which cannot be handled successfully with Pratyaksha and Anumana, then the other pramanas will come into picture. There is an upamana, by example, comparison, and ardhapatti and so on. And there is finally the Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana means finally when you cannot use any other pramanas, the subjects for which any other pramana will not work. For example, whether God exists or not, whether soul exists or not, what will happen after death, whether there will be transmigration, whether it's reincarnation or not. These things can neither be observed with eyes or ears, nor they can be inferred based on the observations. So many such items are taken as Shabda Pramana based. Is you go by referential proof. Is it is somebody, an Apta Vakya, what is called a Apta means a person who is not your enemy. He is your friend. He is your well-wisher, but therefore he has no intention to mislead you or cheat you, and he is making a statement. Like when you are going and searching for some place far away, you don't know how to go, you don't have Google Maps, you don't have mobile phone, so you ask somebody there, so I say how to go to so and so place. So that fellow will tell one direction, and you will believe it and go because you have no choice, and you assume he's a good-natured fellow, he's not cheating you, he's not pre-planned cheat who is being misleading you. So this is called Aptavakya, and when there is no other possibility of any other evidence, we have to resort to Aptavakya or Shabda Pramana. Is also known as Agama, that which has come. Agama, of course, the word Agama Shastra is different. There, Nigama and Agama, the two words are used. Nigama is Veda and Agama is tradition, protocol, which has come. Agama means which has come down to us. And among all the mantras, Gayatri mantra has come down to us through Sandhya Vandanam. Whereas many other mantras have not come down to us. So Agama means that which has come. And Agama is interpreted as Veda or Shabda Pramana or Shruti Pramana, etc., etc. All mean the same thing. That is subjects which cannot be understood through Prachaksha Pramana and Anumana Pramana and Upamana Pramana and Ardhapati and many other Pramanas. Finally, Shabda Pramana is taken as the basis. We have no choice but to go by that. Of course, it may or may not be always correct. It depends. But usually, Aptavakyam and like a parent will tell a child, you do this and don't do this. He's an Apta, so he's telling something which has to be followed by the child. Of course, the child can verify it by himself or herself by putting, suppose the parent tells, don't put your finger in the flame, it will burn. No, I'll put my finger, child will put. When they put, then they understand it will burn. But then they realize, oh, your parents are, my parents know that it will burn. I better believe my parents. So this is also Shabda Pramana. So all these are Shabda Pramanas. And Shruti means Veda, Upanishad. The scripture is Shabda Pramana and it has to be accepted for those circumstances where it is not possible to apply any other Pramana. So I request you to study the Nyaya Darshana on your own. And what has happened is that Gautama is very ancient person. He belonged to Bihar, but he lived in Andhra, in Godavari area. And he developed the Nyaya Sutras, which are available with Motilal Banarsidas or other publishers. The Nyaya Darshana, Nyaya Sutras of Gautama. He is also known as Gautama. Both are same. So the Nyaya Darshana was the methodology process of valid knowledge, acquiring valid knowledge. Pramana means valid knowledge, provable knowledge, proof, standard knowledge, epistemology, procedures, processes. So I will put an end to my brief discourse on Nyaya Darshana, Nyaya Shastra. Of course, somebody asked me to write a book, similar book on Nyaya Darshana, Nyaya Shastra. I have not written, but now I'll get into the Vaiseshika. And maybe for 2 days we'll continue with the Vaiseshika today and again on Tuesday. So the foreword for this book is given by, in fact, the person who gave the foreword. There are two forewords. One is by the Vice Chancellor himself, and I will read the foreword and then I'll give the introduction also to Vaiseshika Sutras. The system of Vaiseshika is considered as one among the 6 major philosophies of ancient India. That is 6 Darshanas: Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaiseshika, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. The Vaiseshika system propounded by sage Kanada is called Padartha Shastra, as it deals with material entities. Now I would like to humbly submit to all the audience that nobody in the last 5,000 years has interpreted physics from the Vaiseshika Sutras in modern terms, except this book. I struggled for 20 years in producing this small little book, but it was worth it because for the first time in the history of science, there has been a proof given by me that the physics and therefore the core of science has originated in India in the Vaiseshika Sutras and the Vedic literature, and not in the West, not in the Western countries as normally believed, because everybody believes that all science originated in England or nearby England around 200 years ago. And before that, there was nothing. Is that true? Because our textbooks are giving all laws of physics, chemistry, mathematics, everything ascribed to either one Britisher, Englishman, or Frenchman, or German, and nobody else. And this kind of a narrative is not acceptable to Russians. In the Russian textbooks, they write their own Russian names of Russian scientists who have originated all laws of physics, chemistry, mathematics, everything, not what we are studying in our books, Newton and Leibniz and so on. And similarly, Germans write their own authors. And only in India, India is the only country in the world, in their textbooks, they write the originators of all scientific principles as Britishers or Englishmen or Frenchmen and nearby England. And there is no self-respect to recognize what our people have done. Because if you believe that, there was no science and no knowledge of physics or chemistry or mathematics, etc., before the Britishers came out with these things about 150, 200 years ago, then what will happen? What about the previous existence of human society? Say 500 years ago, what happened? Was there no civilization in India? If you take any temple, you take Tirumala temple or you take Brihadishwara, when was it constructed? It was constructed around 1000 years ago, 1000 AD. And at that time, without any knowledge of engineering or physics, how did you construct a temple? It would have collapsed long back. It has not collapsed. And how did you construct palaces? How did you construct cities and townships? Without knowledge of strength of materials or town planning or civil engineering. I've seen with my own eyes one textbook called Manasaram, which is having a description of how to build 12-story buildings, palaces. That belongs to some 1000 years of, I don't know which exactly period. And similarly, how did this bridge, Ramasetu, was constructed without any knowledge of engineering or science or physics? That Karunanidhi was so foolish, he asked, which engineering college did Rama go to construct Ramasetu? This is the question he asked. He did not even know that it is not Rama who constructed, it was the engineer Sushena who constructed. And not Sushena. Sushena was a doctor. There were others, the engineers in that army who constructed it. And it is still there. It is visible in the NASA remote sensing satellites. So how did, say, for example, in Ayodhya, Ramchandra live without any Nala constructed? With how did Sri Rama or Yudhishthira, all the big kings and emperors, live in palaces? Where I mean to say, they lived in a hut. So who constructed those palaces? And who constructed Red Fort? The Red Fort was not constructed by Shah Jahan. It was already there way before. Even Taj Mahal was there already way before. All the forts, palaces have been confiscated and converted into mosques and mausoleums. The Lodi Garden, the tourist spot, I went and anybody can make out it's a big palace. And now they have put a dead body in the center and converted into the dead body of Lodi, just like Taj Mahal. I went and asked the hawkers standing outside, what exactly is this building? They said it was a palace. It is very clear because you can see various rooms and various facilities required in a palace, not in a mausoleum, not in a grave. The grave is kept there. Similarly, the Qutub Minar, now it has been found. If you look at the top view of the Qutub Minar from top, the plan, it is showing the zodiac, the observation of the nakshatra system. It was an observatory. It was not a mosque or any such thing. I mean, somebody said that it was constructed for a mosque so that the museum will go to the top of it and shout, the azan. So, really, supposing somebody goes, first of all, to climb up to the top of Qutub Minar, it will take a long time, and you don't have energy to go to the topmost point, stand there and shout azan. And if at all you shout, nobody can hear it because it is so high. No human being on the earth can hear it. And if you go up and come down, if you do it for 20 times, the fellow will die. So it is all nonsensical stands people take. Every single mausoleum has been captured palace of the previous kings, like Prithviraj Chauhan and those who have constructed, and then the names of the Delhi Sultans, Mughals, were kept. Taj Mahal is also like that. Qutub Minar is also like that. And Lodi Garden is also So the graves, every grave, every mausoleum is like that only. They have just taken apart from the cases like Babri Masjid or Adai Din Ka Jhopda. In 2.5 days, they converted. That's why it is called Adai Din Ka. Athala Devi Mosque, Jnana Vapi Mosque. Name itself says what it was. So they have done all this for the centuries of Mughal rule. And today they fight cases so ridiculously. The whole thing is a big, hoax. And in the knowledge system, these are all the buildings. In the knowledge systems, the Britishers, they copied and then they put their names for everything. They had nothing there. As Vivekananda said once, there is nothing there. If you dig in England, you will get only coal, nothing else. Whereas if you dig in India, you will get gold and diamonds. So that is Ratnagarbha. So that is the difference. That's why India was the richest country in the world with all gold. So all the Europeans started making their way to India to, carry gold from here. They looted and looted and looted for centuries. And finally, in 1947, we have a very looted country left out for us. And today we are at least able to stand with confidence in the world. So now this book, The Physics of Vaisheshika, is a proof of the knowledge of existence of physics in ancient times. So now the Vaisheshika system propounded by sage Kanada is called Padartha Shastra, as it deals with the material entities. Kanada holds that by knowing the characteristics of the entities, one will attain liberation. That is the surprising part. Why did he get into physics? Because he thought by understanding physics, you will get moksha. Even Einstein didn't think like that. Even Newton never thought like that. The Vaisheshika system deals with the physical world. The Nyaya system deals with the means of valid knowledge, proof. The scholars understand Nyaya and Vaisheshika systems are identical ones, which is not true. What has happened, I'll tell you. But they are different in many respects. The Vaisheshika system deals with the establishment of Ishvara by inference, explanation about dharma and adharma, the necessity of samavaya, visesha, and other entities like shabda, in contrast to Nyaya Shastra. So Nyaya Shastra is not concerned with all these things. We will explain in today and tomorrow what is samavaya, what is visesha, what is samanya. Basically, these relationships are taken from Nyaya Shastra. That is inherence. Samavaya is inherence. That is, heat is inherent to fire, flame, and cold is inherent to water or ice. So, and then other is inheritance. That is, you inherit the properties of the superset into the subset. And Visesha is the instance. Samanya is general, Visesha is specific. So Samanya, Visesha pair, they refer to generalization and specialization. And since I was known to be, because I retired as the Scientist G, Director General of National Informatics Center at Delhi. I was Scientist G for about 13 years. And so they referred me as, since Professor CSR Prabhu is a renowned scientist, known for his critical analysis, has written this monograph to establish that the Vaisheshika Darshana is the science of physics. He does not accept Nyaya is identical to Vaisheshika, and even the scholars don't accept to know both. He has rendered commentaries to Vaisheshika Sutras in this text. So this is what the foreword by the Vice Chancellor of the Vedic University, saying that he is very happy to bring this book forward as an admixture of traditional and modern science. So he says he believes that this work is a bridge between the traditions of ancient knowledge and modern knowledge. So I was congratulated for doing this by Professor K. Devanathan, Vice Chancellor in 2014. And many scholars in the SV University were involved in the editing of the book and publishing it. Now I'll read out the foreword given by Subhash Kak. Subhash Kak is #1 scientist of Indian origin in USA. He's a Kashmiri Brahmin. I have met him. He came to Hyderabad once. I have been in touch with him. He was a regent professor of computer science at Oklahoma State University at that time. And later on, maybe he was in different universities. And his close colleague, one T.R.N. Rao, also came to me and met me. Now he says this forward. It is with great pleasure that I am writing this forward to CSR Prabhu's Physics of Vaiseshika. It consists of the translation of Kanal Sutras together with a commentary. This book fulfills the great need, since the Vaiseshika, which represents the earliest physics, is not well known to the Indian scientific community. The Vaiseshika is a starting point that is somewhat different from Western physics in as much as that it includes the observer in the framework. In the Western science, the observer, the self, is missing, whereas in Vaiseshika, observer is included in the physics framework. In the Indian tradition, the 6 Darshanas are the cognitive windows through which one perceives the reality. Of these, 2 are atomic perspectives of logic, Nyaya, and matter. So Nyaya presents an atomic perspective of logic. That means anvikshaki, almost a microscopic atomic review, analysis of the logic, and Vaiseshika deals with an atomic perspective of the matter. A further 2 are analysis and synthesis of creation at the physical, Sankhya, and the psychological levels, yoga. The psychological perspective and Sankhya is 2 are the analysis of lived life. The last 2 are Mimamsa and Vedanta. They are the analysis of lived life, that is Mimamsa, and the cosmos, that is Vedanta. The philosophy of cosmos, Brahman, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. The Vaiseshika defines 7 categories of experience, that is substance, quality, action, universality, particularity, relation, and non-existence. Shat Padarthas. Each atom in the Vaiseshika possesses size and mass and is distinct from every other atom. Atoms can vibrate in groups and form dyads, triads, and so on, until the combination reaches a diameter of 1/1,000,000th of an inch, at which state the substance can be identified as earth or air or fire or water. The atom is point-like, or it could be subdivided otherwise. That is indivisible. Vaiseshika has categories not only for space-time matter, but also for attributes related to perception of matter. It starts with the 6 nameable, knowable categories or padarthas. The categories are dravya, that is substance, guna, quality, karma, motion, samanya, universality, vishesha, particularity, and samavaya, inherence. The first 3 of these have objective existence, that is the dravya, guna, karma have objective existence, and last 3 are the product of abstraction, samanya, vishesha, and samavaya, and intellectual discrimination. The universals, samanya, are recurrent generic properties in substances and qualities and motions. The particularities, vishesha. The word Vaiseshika comes from the word vishesha. The subject which deals with vishesha is known as Vaiseshika. The particularities reside, that is vishesha, resides exclusively in the eternal non-composite substances, that is in the individual atoms, souls, and minds, and in the unitary substances, either space and time. Samavaya is the relationship between entities that exist at the same time. It is the binding amongst categories that makes it possible for us to synthesize our experience. The mind associates the non-substance categories with the substance. By doing so, it makes the observer central to the scheme. If there are no sentient beings in this universe, then there would be no need for these categories. Because the observer exists, he is a sentient or intelligent being, then these categories of observed universal existence, reality are required. Therefore, the observer is central in Vaiseshika. Atman is the word used for observer. Now I'll read my own introduction, which I wrote for the entire book. Vaiseshika of Kannada, one of the 6 schools of Indian philosophical thought, the other 5 being Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa Vedanta, concerns itself with the physical reality. It deals with these characteristics of the physical entities, their properties, their interactions, including forces and motions of various types. So in fact, the word karma in Vaiseshika means motion. Vaiseshika is called Padartha Shastra, or the science of substances or material entities. It concerns itself with the modeling of the physical world in terms of its own laws of fundamental physical entities, physical behavior, finally culminating in the atomic theory of the universe. As basic physics, Vaiseshika formed the foundation of ancient applied sciences such as Ayurveda, medicine, and Shilpa Shastra, engineering. Modern science or Western science, originating in Europe during 17th century, comprises mainly branches. Among the large number of branches of science, physics is commonly identified as most exact. Physics is the study of the physical world in all its forms and manifestations. The quantitative aspects of physical world are expressed in mathematical form, thereby enabling physics to describe the physical phenomena in the most exact manner. Thus, physics is the most exact of all sciences. Physics deals with the most fundamental entities of the physical world: matter, energy, space, and time. All the sciences concern themselves with the physical world, whose building blocks, that is molecules, atoms, and particles, are the subjects of physics. Thus, physics is the most fundamental and exact of all sciences in the modern times. Physics has 2 parts, the classical physics and the modern physics. In the present context, we are largely focusing only on the classical physics on historical grounds. While the Vedas contain knowledge of all subjects, Vaiseshika is the branch of knowledge on Veda corresponding to the physical world in the ancient times. Vaiseshika Darshana is the oldest known text of a science which deals with physical world. In other words, physics. Physics is the science of physical world of modern times, and Vaiseshika Darshana is the science of physical world of the ancient times. Both physics and Vaiseshika Darshana have a single common interest, that is the physical world. The constituent entities of the physical world, their qualities or properties, and their interactions, including force and motion. These are the subjects concerned to physics on one hand, and also to the Vaiseshika Darshana on the other hand. The title of the book, The Physics of Vaiseshika, indicates that this book concerns itself with those aspects of Vaiseshika system which are concerned with the science of the physical world, that is physics. Vaiseshika Darshana contains many other topics which I have neglected because my focus is on physics. As the first step in the development of any science is the identification of fundamental categories. Vaiseshika Sutras of Kannada model the physical reality in terms of 6 fundamental categories of substances or entities. 1, Dravya; 2, Guna; 3, Karma or motion. Guna are properties, and Dravyas are physical substances in their atomic form. And then the abstractions of Samanya, that is generalization, Vishesha, specialization or particularization, and Samavaya or inherence. Though later scholars enhanced some more Padarthas, someone made 7 as adding nothingness as 1 more, and some people went up to 10. They added to the original Vaiseshika Sutras. Thus, the physics of Vaiseshika brings out the physics of Vaiseshika Darshana. Among 10 chapters of Vaiseshika Darshana, only the first 5, which are dealing with the subject of interest to physics, are covered in this book. In the 5th chapter, we stop at a point where the discussions relating to the phenomena of the physical world end. So after that, they talk of other topics. So I have really summarized those chapters. And in 5 chapters, Vaiseshika's view of the physical world is brought out clearly. It comprises the fundamental entities, matter, energy, space and time, and their interactions through forces, gravitation, electricity, magnetism, etc. Please withdraw your questions now. We'll have questions at the end. Please remove your hand. Please delete your hand. We'll have questions only at the end, not in between. It is distracting us. So in 5 chapters, Vaiseshika's view of physical world is brought out clearly. It comprises the fundamental entities, matter, energy, space and time, their interactions through various forces, gravitation, electricity, magnetism. All these are touched upon in the Vaiseshika. Various types of motions in various states of matter, solid, liquid. Vaiseshika models the physical world in terms of the eternal atoms as the ultimate building blocks of the universe. Atomic theory, which continued till John Dalton came out with this modern atomic theory in 19th century. While historians of science are generally unaware of the contribution of ancient science India to physics. If you look at the history of science books, nobody talks anything about India. They talk about Europe, they talk about China, they talk about even Arabia, but not about India. That is all colonial bias. The Britishers made sure that India is not given any credit. Because for this also, there is a reason. Till the East India Company was in place, they recognized India as the parent of Western culture, Sanskrit as the parent of European languages. Like William Jones wrote a book saying Sanskrit is the mother of Greek and Latin, who were the mothers of the European languages. But after the British Empire took over from the East India Company, they changed the entire foundational narrative, saying, no, how can we give supremacy to Sanskrit and India? So let us say Sanskrit is only a sister of Greek and Latin, and they appointed Max Muller and other scholars to denigrate. In fact, Max Muller wrote a letter to, I think is for someone saying that to uproot this ancient religion of India, I went to its root and shown what the root is. That is referring to Rigveda, and he gave denigrating fake interpretations to Vedas. And now then he says, even now if the missionaries don't take over India, whose fault is it? So the whole plan was to convert the whole India into Christianity. So Max Muller, Griffith, and McLeod, and so many others were appointed to give fake interpretations to the Vedas so that the Hinduism can be uprooted and Christianity can take over. So this is the purpose with which people like Max Muller and Western scholars work. And it has failed to some extent, though it is successful to some extent. Our modern Indian youth, they have no idea of the ancient Indian culture. So the historians of science are generally unaware of the contribution of ancient India to physics. Historically, Vaiseshika was merged quite unfairly with Nyaya. That is another big blunder our own scholars made, to merge Vaiseshika with Nyaya. There's great Anyaya they have done. While it is true that they both together have a lot in common, Vaiseshika, the science of the physical world or physics itself, of the ancient world, had its own independent and exclusive status, which had been sometimes denied by the logicians, especially in the Middle Ages. While Nyaya concerns itself with the epistemology of the earls of acquisition of valid knowledge, Vaiseshika concerns itself with the ontological aspects of the constituents of the universe. So Nyaya is only a Pramana Shastra, whereas Vaiseshika is Prameya Shastra. Sankhya also deals with the fundamental categories as they arise in the space of mind, and therefore has some correspondence with the Vaiseshika in the physical world. Now let me clarify that the Sankhya does not accept the reality of the physical world except what it appears to arise in the mind through the 5 senses. Whereas the physics, the Vaiseshika, accepts dravyas as material substances in the external world. That's a major difference. It's a big deviation from the original Sankhya position. While the Vaiseshika Sutras of Kannada are of very great antiquity, of a period of a very remote time, belonging to post-Vedic but pre-Puranic age, what is called Sutra age or Sutra period. Its extant commentaries belong to a period of recent thoughts. Extant means which are still existing in the last 2000 years only. Even though the time period of Kannada's Vaisheshika Sutras is not known with certainty, a Chinese tradition believes and describes Kannada being of great antiquity of at least about a millennium before Buddha. So the Buddha's period was normally taken as 500 BC. So if you take 1000 years before that, Kannada will come to 1500 BC. But now that Buddha's period is preponed to 1900 BC by a lot of research, then Kannada's period will go back to around 3000 BC. Unfortunately, the series of successive commentaries of the earlier periods are not available to us anymore. They are lost. There were a large number of large time interval between the original Vaisheshika Sutras of Kannada and the commentaries starting with Prashastapada of around 5th century AD. And I studied Prashastapada Bhasha in depth, who also had names such as Prashastam Mati, Prashasta Deva, Prashastakara Deva. And while we lost most of the early commentaries, including one Katandi by one Vritti by Bharadwaja and one commentary by Ravana. Of course, he may or may not be the same Ravana we know. He may or may not be the same Bharadwaja we know. We don't know. The earliest text we have with us today is the Prashastapada's own text, known as Padartha Dharma Sangraha. This text is not exactly a commentary to the Vaisheshika Sutras of Kannada, but it has its own independent status as a respectable text and Vaisheshika with significant amount of Puranic orientation and related content. Prashastapada also wrote a different text, which was the actual commentary to Vaisheshika Sutras, known as Bhashya, Bhakya, or Tika, which is not available today. Therefore, we are forced to depend upon the existing, the only Padartha Dharma Sangraha. I depended on it. After Prashastapada, the commentaries on Vaisheshika are found from the more recent periods of time, one within 1000 years. Kiranavali, authored by King Udayana, he is a king, very famous king. In 11th century AD, is a commentary on Prashastapada's work. And then the Upaskara of Shankar Mishra of early 15th century AD is a commentary on Vaisheshika Sutras with a heavy dependence on Prashastapada. I have studied all these books which are available. Atreya wrote a Bhashya to Vaisheshika Sutras, where the critique was given by Vadiraja. Vadiraja is a great Madhva saint. Most, if not all, works and even references to Vaisheshika are traceable to the scholars of Nyaya. Prominent among them being Prabhakara. There is in fact Prabhakara Mimamsa, Bhatta Mimamsa. There are two schools in Nyaya Darshana. And Bhatta, Jayadatta, Annambhatta wrote Tarkasangraha. He is a Telugu man. Mallavadi, Murari Mishra, Chakradhara, Simhasuri, Srivallabha, Raghunatha, Raghurama, Jayarama, Venidatta, and Ujjotaka. All these scholars of Nyaya wrote commentaries to Vaisheshika in their own way. Some of them had access. They had access to some of the most lost ancient commentaries for which we don't have access today, such as Katandi and Vakya. For example, Udayana refers in his Kiranavali to Vaisheshika Bhashya as being very extensive, and the same is ascribed to Ravana by Padmanabha Mishra in 16th century in this Kiranavali Bhashya. So none of the commentaries post Prashastapada attempted. That is the crucial point to note. All the scholars, Nyaya scholars, they interpreted Nyaya out of Vaisheshika Sutras. It is like interpreting mathematics out of physics, which is totally wrong, as they were too color clouded and dominated, biased, and conditioned by Nyaya logic. Prashastapada was the only person who is the oldest commentators available today, is held with high respect and regarded as first known commentator, next to Bharadwaja, whose work Padartha Dharma Sangraha is available and is considered as a standard reference text on Vaisheshika. And I have depended on that.
Dashapadartha Shastra of Chandramati was an ancient text of Vaiseshika, where he converted Padarthas from 6 of Kannada to 10. And it was translated to Chinese by Yuan Sang during 648 AD. I went to Nalanda, where I went to the Yuan Sang's museum there. Thus, the origins of physics can be traced. Therefore, the origins of physics can be traced back to the VSS Sutras of Kannada of very great antiquity of several millennia BC, and also later to Padartha Dharma Sangraha of Prashasthapada, 5th century AD. And other available commentaries of more recent origin, like Upaskara of Shankar Mishra, and who lived in the second quarter of 15th century, and Setu of Padmanabha Mishra, originated in 16th century. All these texts have been studied all through the historical times in the traditional academic curricula in the Veda Pathshalas, along with the Nyaya logic. They were considered as part of Nyaya. However, all of them belong to a time period several centuries before the modern advent of Western science and the first formal discussions of classical physics in the West in 18th century, which is yesterday. Unitary view of the physical reality. Now, without this unitary view, we cannot really do justice. The Indian philosophical models of the physical reality went much beyond the perspective of classical physics. Advaita, based on the Upanishads, presents a unitary view of the physical reality. According to Advaita, Brahman, or the unknowable absolute reality, is the essence of existence, whose apparent manifestation is multivarious world due to Maya. In quantum mechanics, the nature of physical world as expressed by Schrodinger's wave equation is described to be the expression of Maya as stated by Schrodinger himself. The relativity of space and time as expressed in Indian philosophical system can be shown as a parallel thought to the theory of relativity of Einstein. The classical physical model of 4 fundamental entities, matter, energy, space, and time, gets fundamentally transformed in the modern physics. In the context of relativity theory, space and time do not have absolute existence. They are relative to the observer. When the observer travels at velocity of light, both space and time become 0. The root of 1 minus v square by c square is a factor with which space and time vary or dilate. So when v is equal to c, that becomes 0. V square by c square is 1, and 1 minus 1 is 0. Root of 0 is 0. And if v is greater than c, then it becomes imaginary, root of a negative number. So they both do not have absolute existence. Therefore, space and time don't have absolute existence. Thus, we have to reduce the 4 absolute fundamental entities only into 2, matter and energy. Matter and energy are considered independent in classical physics, but became interconvertible and philosophically single in modern physics and relativity. The relativity theory, the most famous equation is equal to mc square. This equation demonstrates the unitary and interconvertible nature of matter and energy. Thus, when we ask the question, what is the final one single fundamental absolute reality? The answer could be one which becomes many with all forms of matter and all forms of energy. This one was explained as Brahman in Advaita Vedanta of Upanishads. The parallelism between one Brahman of Upanishads, which manifests as universe, and one absolute reality, which manifests as all forms of matter and all forms of energy in universe, cannot be missed. In a way, the same truth is expressed by both schools of thought, Advaita and modern physics. In Vaiseshika Sutras of Kannada, this unity comes out on equivalent of Sat, equivalent of Brahman of Vedanta, which is the essence of all existence. Sat akaranavat nityam, that is the sutra, causeless and eternal. And knowing and understanding that one Sat results in liberation and moksha or nishreyasa. The observer of modern physics was identified as Atman or self in the Vaiseshika. In this book, an attempt has been made to unearth and demonstrate the evidence of awareness and knowledge of the basic principles of physics, including atomic theory in the VSS Sutras of Canada, whose antiquity is unassailable and is well known to have large precedence over the Western sources of physics, including the recent sources of 18th century and also the ancient Greek sources of 4th century BC. It is hoped that this endeavor will enable a better assessment and appreciation of the hallowed traditions of ancient Indian science. So this is the introduction I wrote in this book. I suggest you acquire this book and study it. And I will stop here for today, and I'll continue the same topic on the Tuesday, where I will go into the actual sutras of Vaiseshika and delve deeper. So I'll stop here and go for questions.
Okay, Dhanyavadalu, Prabhu sir, for your wonderful session on Vaisheshika. Now I request our students, whoever wants to ask any questions can raise their hands, and you can ask raise questions with Prabhu sir and get cleared. Gupta Agaru first. Yeah, please ask your question.
Namaskar Mahoday. I am really very much happy to know the contribution you have made for the Vaiseshika, and to bring that the physics is have actually done by our ancestors. I would like to go into more depth study for this one. So I am ready to first go through your book, and after that one, is there any class or any course for me to understand in more detail Vaiseshika Darshan?
Yeah, we will we'll organize such a deeper dive session through VSS for the Vaiseshika. If you have enthusiastic energy with people like you, I'm very happy that you came forward. So we will organize some sessions. I have already delivered some lectures in the past. I have put it in the group also, one previous lecture which I gave. And we will do a research project also on this, because we have a research project planned in this course. So one research topic is this. There are 2-3 research topics. So we can have a specialized group to delve deeper into Vaiseshika. Lalitaji, please take note of this
Yes,
requirement.
yes,
We'll
Mahoday.
organize it on a separate basis. Thank you, Guptaji.
Mahoday, I am interested to participate in your research project for this one, if I can contribute. I am basically a triple engineering graduate, mechanical, chemical and industrial, and it is my wish to contribute for the Vedas to the best of my ability at this age.
Very good. You, Lalitaji, please take note of his name. We will include him.
Yes, Mahoday. Yeah,
Next.
anyone next for questions?
You can also ask who are the people who would like to join such a group. That we'll ask in the group also for the Vaiseshika group, who are the people who are equally interested like Gupta.
Yes, we will post this one there in the group, sir.
Yeah, Ramani Moganti, you can ask the question by unmuting yourself. Ramani Moganti. Okay.
Professor Jairam Reddy garu.
Yeah, he is my good friend. He is a great yoga teacher by himself, Jairam Reddy garu. We are happy that he is here. Go ahead, Jairam Reddy garu. Namaste. Yeah. Give the permission to Ramani.
Yeah, I have given.
Yeah, actually, her question is, does Vaiseshika contain chemistry also?
Partly basic the single atom, dual atom, triad atoms, that level of chemistry is there, but there are many other books on chemistry. There are hundreds of books, separate subject. Rasa Shastra.
Thank you.
So Venkateshwarlu garu, now you can ask the question. I think Jairam garu will ask.
Pranams, Guruji.
Yes.
Arundhati Darshanayam is part of Nyaya Darshanam, Guru. Arundhati Darshanayam. Arundhati
What is it?
Darshanayam. The knowing the known from the unknown. Ikkada chadivanu.
No,
Arundhati
I'm
Darshanayam.
not. No, it must be Nyaya Darshana. Nyaya Darshana means the entire subject of logical analysis. So many books may be there. So original is Gautama Nyaya Sutras. And then we have Navya Nyaya, which came recently in Bengal. And so this may be there.
One more question. We are all non-students, non-science. We are all commerce background. How can we be part of this Vaisheshika? The.
No, you leave that. You have other topics to concentrate on.
Okay.
Yes, Venkateshwarlu.
Professor Jairam.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I am Babu. I just want to make one or two announcements. Firstly, sorry, I could not join because of some internet problem. I'm traveling. I'm at present in Jammu. So some problems are there. That's why I could not join. So coming back, see now today is the second day of Darshanas. And the next class we will have on Darshanas will be on Tuesday. And you remember that Krishna Murari Tripathi taught us Vedas and Vedangas. So after that he had some engagement, so he could not take Dharma Shastras. So there is a reschedule on Sunday, that is on 16th, and Monday, that is 17th. He will take classes same time, 6:30 in the morning. And after that, again, we will continue with the Darshanas from CSR Prabhu garu. That is on Tuesday and Wednesday, 18th, 19th. On 20th, we will have Vimana Shastra scheduled. So this is one announcement I want to make. And during weekends, we will have some webinars, which I request all of you to attend. So now we will continue with question answer session. Lalita ji, can you continue?
Yes, sir. Now, Dr. Pampati Chakrapani garu.
Namaskar, Mahodaya. Sir, is it made regarding solar energy? Did he mention anything, sir?
No, that is there in Viman
regarding
Shastra.
solar energy. That is mentioned in the Shastra.
Regarding solar energy, there is a separate book of Viman Shastra where it is discussed very much in depth and very advanced. Not in Vaisheshika. Vaisheshika is a theoretical text. So there are other texts like Viman Shastra, Amshubodhini, where solar energy is discussed in great depth and very advanced, more than today's.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Gautam ji is next to ask question.
No.
Yes.
Namaskar, sir.
Go ahead. Go. Yeah, no, sir. Yeah.
So actually, my comment is that Vaisheshika is the basics of physics and so on. But there is no harm if this is added, because the discoveries takes place only on requirement. That time, kind of life people were doing, maybe with most thing was that on moksha, there is a lot of importance. So many physical world things were not explored that because those are not required. And I think they also knew a lot of things. They knew about the effect of the environment on any discovery or any particular things. So the digging out of the earth and extracting oil and so on, those things are not done because the detrimental effect on the earth, because the oils basically, I think there's a lubricant for the stone formations. So if oil is removed completely, there will be possibility of earthquakes because the tension will develop and nothing to lubricate or to release the tension. So that kind of things, environmental things are known so much that I think many things are not done actually. So in present day science, we see that a lot of discoveries, more discoveries, because the requirements came actually. Like we are using the internet, with the Zoom and so on, because these we now went to that the requirement we felt. So gradual discovery is a continuous process. So throughout the ages, the basics were done in Indian things, no doubt, but lot many developments took after that, and also Indians also participate. The whole world is participating in various discoveries and so on. That's what my comment is, sir. If you have any,
No, I have something to add. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, what you say is only partially correct. I will give a different factual perspective. You see, if you look at the Puranic scheme of things, historical sequence. So we had Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Okay? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, in the Puranic narratives, Kali Yuga is described as the weakest, worst and lowest, not the most advanced. You understand what I'm saying? So the Krita Yuga was the most advanced, Treta Yuga was next, Dwapara was next, and Kali Yuga is the least. That means Dharma operates only 25% in Kali Yuga. Are you aware of this?
Yeah.
Statements? So Dharma operated 100% in Satya Yuga, Krita Yuga, and Dharma operated 75% in Treta Yuga. Dharma operated 50% in Dwapara Yuga, and operates only 25% in Kali Yuga. That is Yuga Dharma. In fact, Kali Yuga was kind of a horror. So many rishis did not want to live in Kali Yuga. They performed tapasya and left before Kali Yuga enters, because Kali Yuga is horror, if not terror. So that is the kind of description given to Kali Yuga. You know, Kali Yuga is given all the possible bad words, and the Kali Purusha's description is given in a horrible situation in the beginning of Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga began after the end of Krishna Avatar, which is about 80 years after the war was completed. If you look at the technological advancements in Dwapara Yuga, in Treta Yuga, and in Krita Yuga, they were far more advanced than in Kali Yuga. Like, there is no astra like Brahmastra till today. Even your nuclear bomb is not adequate in its devastation compared to the Brahmastra. And many other astras, Pashupata and so many. That such a technology does not exist. And they have deliberately withdrawn such technology, because they know that in Kali Yuga people are very mischievous, they have no dharma, so they will destroy the entire existence by using such astras. Similarly, Vimanas also. Pushpa Vimana kind of a thing doesn't exist today, nor even the other Vimanas which are given in the Viman Shastra, they don't exist. Only Kritaka Vimanas exist, physical Vimanas. And similarly, mantra powers is not visible today. And also yogic siddhis, etc., they are not visible. Another very important point today you have to notice that now the population is very large. If you look at the population of the world during, say, Satya Yuga, Krita Yuga was very small, and Dwapara Yuga was more than that, but it is still less than Kali Yuga. So the technologies or the powers, siddhis, or mantras, or astras, vimanas, etc., they're not required for mass consumption because the population is very small. You understand what I'm saying, Gautam Mukherjee?
Sure.
So only few people had those powers, and that was adequate. They were able to travel in space, Akasha Gamanam, interstellar travel, not only by vimanas, but without vimanas also, the yogic siddhis were there. Today, there is no such thing. At least we don't know. They may be there, but we don't know. So, because of the weakness of the individual and because of the weakness of dharma, the individual's own powers will not be there much. And therefore, mechanized powers have been developed to survive and to continue. So the so-called great discoveries of Kali Yuga, modern times, are all mechanized. They are not individual powers. In fact, the individual power is getting depleted, reduced day by day. By using these gadgets, your brain will be affected, your power will be reduced more and more. So this is the opposite. It is a contra situation compared to the original Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga kind of advancements.
Sure.
So that is a very big difference. Main difference is that the population is grown very, very high, explosive. So all the people in the population are very weak. They are not anywhere near reaching tapasya, siddhi and all those things. So for them, whatever requirements are there, they are being met by the mass technological rollouts of implementations of aviation or communication, etc., which on the contrary are resulting in environmental destruction. So there is a total contra situation today. So this is not understood. A lot of people in modern science, I met some people in Bengal or Bihar, professors of physics, who are so negative against the Sanskrit traditions. And they are all Brahmins once again, or Chattopadhyaya, and whatever it is. And they got disgusted with Sanskrit and text, and they want to abuse. They may have communist leanings because they don't know all these facts and they don't want to recognize. I'll give you a case in point. This book, The Physics of Vaisheshika, which I wrote, was requested to be presented at one big, very important scientific enclave held at Nalanda. So I was invited there by one Shishir Roy. Shishir Roy is a very top physicist. He is with Jawaharlal Nehru Institute of Advancement of Science at Bangalore, IIC Bangalore. And his wife, they encouraged me a lot and they invited me there. I went and made a presentation. Now there is Jyoti Chatterjee, one who was the organizer of that event for a long time. It is called the Nalanda Dialogue. That is the name of the event. And that man was a communist. He was anti-Vedas and anti-Sanskrit. So he was not willing to even listen or accept the position given in my book. He was very reluctant to hear to it. He was anti, very core anti. I didn't know that till I went there. And then he tried to provoke others to write critiques against this book. And the top scholars, they never wrote, they could never write. There is one Pramod Kumar Mukhopadhyay, P.K. Mukhopadhyay, a very great logician. He is right now in Varanasi. He was in Jadavpur University for a long time, in philosophy department. He told that he will write a critique on my book. He never wrote it today. Many years have passed. They could not. Because whatever I wrote was total solid rock, solid gold rock. And so you see this bias, and that man, that Jyotida or Jyoti Chatterjee, he interacted with me for quite some time on the WhatsApp. Then he expressed his disgust. He feels like vomiting when he talks of Sanskrit or Sanskrit texts. He says, I know in my family there were people who believed in all this, but I don't believe it's all nonsense, this kind of a thing. And then I realized that this is all because he got a very bad zero exposure. And he's already biased. And they're so much biased that even if they see the evidence, they don't want to accept. So I had to face such people also. And many other instances I will tell later, but right now, this is the position. See, so what you don't have to be apologetic. You are trying to be apologetic. What I gave the narrative is the opposite. Like it is only a degeneration day by day here. Though the technologies discoveries are coming for mass consumption purpose only, like this Zoom and all came during COVID time because there was no other way. But why did COVID come in the first place? Is it not a big contribution, negative contribution of modern science? Why is the environmental crisis coming? Is it not a contribution of modern science? So they don't understand all this. Okay, we'll stop there. I think time is up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Prabhakar Mahodaya, have you got to say anything? Otherwise, we will close for the day.
I think it's a very good lecture and it's a great book written by Dr. Prabhu. Congratulations to him. Dhanyavada Mahodaya. Namaskara.
Okay, thank you, Prabhakar Mahodaya. Now I request Satyavati Amma to say the prarthana.
Yeah, before we close, there is a doubt by most of the students regarding the classes and all. Please see the group, WhatsApp group. There will be announcements there. Any changes, any additions, it will be there. Please see the group. Don't
Yes.
get confused. Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow evening also there's a webinar. That's what I kept in the chat also.
Right.
Day after tomorrow morning, Tripathi Ji's session is there as per Colonel Ji's this one. You'll please check the group, WhatsApp group. You will come to know of sessions. Yeah.
Namaskaram andi. Dhanyavadalu.
Dhanyavad.
Satyavati Amma Meeru.
Namaskaram Mahodaya. Om Sarve Bhavanti Sukhanaha Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pasyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu Om Shanti 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 Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheswaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Om Shanti 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 Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Dhanyavadalu Satyavati Amma. Now I request Babu Garu to recite the national anthem. May all the students stand up for the national anthem. Babu Garu, national anthem. మీ దగ్గర ఏదో స్టాప్ అయించు.
नायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्ज्वल जलधि
तव शुभाशिष
तव शुभाशिषमाहे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे
भारत भाग्य विधाता
जय
जय जय
जय हे
जय
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 हे
जय हे जय हिंद.
Jai Hind. Now I request all the students to see the WhatsApp group. Repu seminar untadi. Tomorrow we have a seminar from 4 p.m. onwards, and day after tomorrow morning by 6:30 a.m. we have the session by Tripathi ji. So please see the WhatsApp group. You have on both days you have classes. Yeah, thank you everybody. I'll just close
Thank you,
the
ma'am.
session for
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
నమస్తే అండి.
God bless you all with health, wealth, and
ఇండియా
happiness.
ఇండియాలో ఇక్కడ అమెరికాలో ఉన్న వాళ్ళకి అది తెల్లారి గట్ట క్లాస్ అవుతుంది. అది మేము ఆడియో వినగలం కానీ మేము క్లాస్ లో పార్టిసిపేట్ చేయలేము. మాకు పొద్దున 3:30 అవుతుంది.
సరేలేండి మార్నింగ్ అంటే ఈ రోజు టైమింగ్ ఏనండి రేపు అదే ఎల్లుండి రేపు మాత్రం
కదా 4
ఈవినింగ్
సాయంత్రం అది ఆ క్లాస్ అండి. మిగతా అన్ని మేము అటెండ్ అవ్వగలుగుతున్నాము. ఆ 4కి సాయంత్రం మీకు ఇండియా టైమ్ లో పెట్టేవన్నీ మాకు తెల్లారగట్ల 3:30 అలా అవుతుంది.
అవునులేండి. ఇప్పుడు ప్రభాకర్ మహోదయ్ కూడా అక్కడే ఉంటారు కదా విదేశాల్లోనే. ఆయన అర్లీ మార్నింగ్ 3:30 అని అంటుంటారు.
అది కొంచెం అవ్వలేకపోతున్నాము. అంటే వీడియోస్ వినగలుగుతాము మీరు పెడుతున్నారు.
సరేనండి.
నమస్తే.
ఓకేనండి. నమస్తే. నమస్తే. క్లోజ్ చేసేస్తానండి సెషన్ అందరు.